Hi, and welcome to Stamp with Ginny. Today I'm going to share with you this card using the Splendid Day suite of products found in our July-December mini catalog. This is a card that we made together during our demonstrator-only event, Creativity Now. So let me set this aside and I'll show you how I got started. We're going to start with our piece of soft seafoam and our soft seafoam ink pad along with one of our blending brushes. I've got a piece of scrap grid paper under my cardstock just to make things a little easier for you to see. I've got ink on my blender, and so I'm going to take a little bit of it off, and then I'm going to start in the lower right hand corner and move across the cardstock. Now each time I do that, I am going to start in the same corner because that's where I want it a little darker, and I'm going to move up across the cardstock, allowing it to soften as I go. What this does is create kind of an ombre effect. Know that if your fingers have oils, it will attract the ink more so than not. And you can do that until you're happy with the way it's blended. Now that I've got my blending done, I'm going to bring in my stamp. This happens to be the dot stamp. That's a random stamp great for backgrounds, and my embossing buddy. This is part of the new toolkit that you'll find in the July-December catalog. I'm lightly running that over my seafoam and also my Calypso coral. What that does is remove the static so my embossing powder will stick and stay in the places that I want it. Next, I'm inking up my background image here and stamping randomly using my Versamark. Versamark is a water ink pad, and so it really doesn't have any color. It picks up the color of the cardstock, and or it's going to be used with the heat embossing powder, which is what we're doing today. I've got that done, and I'm going to bring in my white embossing powder. Let's see, I look like I've missed a spot right here, so I'm going to stamp there. You can move your cardstock around in the light in order to see what you've gotten and where you've stamped. I know that it's kind of difficult to see. I'm tapping off the excess, and as you can see, it's on here, and you can use the little brush in the toolkit to remove the little areas if you rocked your stamp and you caught an edge. There we go. Next, I'm going to stamp the sentiment. Today is a day to remember. Now, I've cut my Calypso coral a little larger because I want to have room to stamp and make sure that I have things where I want it, in addition to a place to hold it while I heat the embossing powder. So I've stamped there along the bottom, giving me a finger grip hold, and I'm sprinkling the embossing powder and tapping it off. And if you get the toolkit, you're going to love the tray for embossing powder that comes with it, along with the other tools included. Now that I've got that done, I'm ready to take it to my heat tool and heat set the embossing powder. So let me do that quickly. I'm going to use my tool here that comes in the kit to hold the cardstock down, and I'm simply going to move my heat tool back and forth over the image until the embossing powder changes. I hope you can see that on the big images here. It's a fairly quick process, and of course you can tip your cardstock back and forth in the light to see what's shiny and what's not. If it has a powdery finish to it, you still need to hit it a little more with the heat tool, and if it's shiny, it's done. The main thing is you do not want to overheat embossing powder, or it can burn your paper. Now that I have that done, I'm ready to start assembling. Okay, next I need to die cut my pieces. I'm going to have 3 pieces here. This one has the Sahara Sand on the back, and these 2 have the Calypso coral. I'm going to use this die and cut one of the shapes from each piece. Now remember, this is specialty paper, so we can layer these and cut 2 at one time since it's thinner. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, I've got all my pieces now. These are the 4 half circle pieces from the card I shared with you earlier that I mentioned you'll want to set those aside. And I've cut the leaves out from the pieces that I showed you earlier. I've got them flipped upside down because I want to use the Sahara Sand side, the metallic, and then also the Calypso coral. I'm adding mini dimensionals on the back of each one of these pieces, and I'm simply going to lay these onto my card stock piece that we dry embossed, kind of in a random fashion. And so I'm going to take this, lay it down first so that I know where I'm at and I'm happy with the spacing. Now that I've got that done, I'm going to take away the 2 corners. I'm going to leave this one here so that I can see how much space I have, so that I can put this first one where I'd like it. I'm removing the backings of my mini dimensionals, and I've actually got 6 on each one of these because I want to support that center area also. And I'm going to adhere this down. Does not have to be perfectly straight. And then I'm going to add the next half circle. These mini dimensionals are fantastic because they fit into spaces so easily, and you don't have to get your paper snips out and cut your dimensionals up. I'm going to remove the next 2 pieces here and take the backings off those dimensionals at the same time. Once I've got those dimensionals off, I can take these now and simply adhere them to that panel. There we go. I've got them on there the way I want. And I'm ready to add these little 3-leaf images. Now, I'm only going to add adhesive to the very bottom here. And I'm doing that so that they will float inside the frames. I've got the first one here. This is my Calypso coral. And I'm adding just a touch of that adhesive and tucking it in. Let me get my little tweezers and tuck it right here where I want it. And it'll float because I've only adhered it down at the bottom. The next one I'm going to do is the Sahara Sand here, and I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive on that thicker part. Pick it up with my tweezers, and I'm going to adhere this one right inside like so. Press down on that area. For this last one, it's my Calypso coral, but I'm using the metallic side, and I'm going to add just a little bit of adhesive again. It's just a tiny dot. If you wanted to, you could use a mini glue dot instead of the multi-purpose. And I'm going to tuck this one right in, I think here. I'm going to press down so that it adheres, and then I'm going to bring in my sentiment. Now remember, I stamped this on a piece of cardstock that was slightly larger so that I had a finger grip hold. So at this point, I'm simply going to take my paper snips and trim it about the same distance up that I have blank cardstock on the bottom. There we go. And I can flip this over and add, let's see, I'm going to add a dimensional in the center here and remove the backing, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of adhesive that's multi-purpose liquid on each end. What that's going to do is secure my sentiment in the center and allow it to adhere to the 2 pieces of designer series paper also. So I'm going to pop that right in there. That's nice and secure now, so I can bring in my card base, fold it on the score line, and use my bone folder so there's a beautiful crease line there. I'm going to flip this over and add some dimensionals. I'm going to use my larger dimensionals this time since I'm doing the 4 corners. And I'll put a couple in the center also to give it some stability. Take those dimensional backings off. Flip it over and adhere it right in the center of my card front. There you go. Isn't that simply elegant? The leaves float and give you this very light, airy feel. I think you're going to enjoy the Splendid Day suite of products. It allows you so many options in your crafting. And of course, if you'd like any of these products, feel free to stop by my online store. You can get there from my blog, Stamp with Jini. Thanks for joining me.